the afternoons, the sun would creep through the blinds in room 303 like a hesitant guest, spilling long fingers of light across the linoleum floor. Everything in that room looked like it had been waiting for something too long. The furniture, the air, even the smell. It was the scent of antiseptic mixed with old roses, like someone had tried to clean away a memory and failed. My name is Meredith. I'm 34, a night nurse in the geriatric wing of St. Dolores SAS. I started here 7 years ago, still bright-eyed enough to believe I could change things. Now, I just make sure the IVs don't run dry and that no one dies alone. Sleep comes and goes, mostly goes. I think grief clings to this place like mold in the walls, especially in room 303. Mr. Halverson was placed in 303 3 months ago. Quiet man, barely spoke. He would just sit in that creaky recliner by the window, eyes always on the garden beyond the glass. He never watched the TV, never read, just stared at that overgrown patch of weeds and wilting petunias that the hospital once called a garden. Every night, he mumbled something under his breath. I thought it was gibberish until I started listening closely. It was always the same phrase: "Tell her I'm still in the garden." At first, I figured he was reliving a memory. We see that a lot. The mind folds in on itself near the end. But then he started doing strange things. He refused to eat unless the window was open, and at night, when I made my rounds, I would find dirt under his nails, though he hadn't left his bed. One evening, I came in during the storm. Power flickered. Most of the residents were asleep. I did my rounds with a flashlight. When I entered room 303, it was freezing. The window was wide open. Mr. Halverson was standing at the edge of his bed, arms stretched toward the darkness outside. I rushed to him, afraid he might fall, but he turned to me slowly, his eyes wide and far too clear. "She's in the garden," he whispered, "but she doesn't know I'm still here." I helped him back into bed, and as I pulled the covers over him, he gripped my wrist with surprising strength. "You must tell her, before the dirt covers me up again." He passed away 2 nights later, peaceful, no struggling, just slipped away. But that night, I dreamt of the garden. It was no longer overgrown. The flowers bloomed in impossible colors. There was a young woman walking between the hedges, humming, and somewhere beneath the soil, something moved. After he died, I was tasked with clearing his room. It's strange what people leave behind. No pictures, no letters, just a folded napkin on the nightstand. On it in careful handwriting: "Tell her I'm still in the garden." I took it home without knowing why. That night, I dreamt again. The same woman, the same garden. Only this time, she stopped humming. She looked straight at me and said, "You haven't told her." I woke up crying, not from fear, from guilt. Room 303 has a new patient now. They painted over the floral wallpaper. New bed, same sunlight. But every time I walk past it, I swear I hear rustling in the vents, like wind through leaves. And sometimes, in my dreams, the woman in the garden stands perfectly still, waiting. I never did find out who she was. A wife, a daughter, a sister. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe some messages are meant only to be carried, never delivered. The flowers never grew again, outside room 303, but the earth there still breathes. I remember the first time I really saw Mr. Halverson, not just noticed him, but saw him. He was sitting in that recliner, same as always, but there was something different in the way he held his hands, like they were cupped around something invisible. A shape, a memory. He stared at his palms for hours, unmoving. I stood in the doorway, longer than I should have, watching him. When I finally walked in, I asked him if he was all right. He didn't look up, just said, "I promised her I'd never leave, and now I can't find her." I told myself it was the dementia talking, but I wrote it down in my notes anyway. Later that week, I asked around, old files, staff gossip, even a few of the older nurses who'd been here longer than me. No one knew much about Mr. Halverson. He'd come from a nearby hospice that shut down. No next of kin, no visitors, just a name and a room number. The more I searched, the more I dreamed. And in every dream, the garden grew clearer. The woman's dress was pale blue. Her hands were covered in soil. She looked like someone I should recognize. But I never did. She looked sad, not in a weeping way, just waiting. Eventually I stopped asking questions. The hospital has a way of swallowing curiosity. You either accept the oddities, or they eat away at you. But I still think about him. I think about how even now, the sun never really warms room 303. How sometimes, new patients there complain of cold dreams, and whispers they can't quite understand. One woman said, half asleep, "Tell him I saw her by the roses." We don't have roses in the garden anymore. Haven't for years. Sometimes when I park my car before a shift, I pass the garden. It's just a patch of weeds and cracked stone now. But when the wind blows just right, I swear I hear humming. I keep the napkin in my wallet, folded and worn. Its ink slowly fading. I don't know why. Maybe I'm still waiting for a moment to hand it off to someone. Maybe I'm afraid that once I do, I'll start dreaming of something worse. I told one person, my sister. She listened, said it was probably just stress, that I needed rest. She even offered to pay for a few therapy sessions. But how do you explain that a dying man might still be waiting to be found? I stayed late after one shift. Once, sat by the garden alone. I brought a rose from a florist, dug a hole with my hands, planted it by the broken stone path, and I whispered I told her. The next morning, the flower was gone, just gone, like it had never been there. Now every time someone asks me why I don't work days, I smile and tell them I like the quiet. But the truth is, I think the garden only stirs at night, and I'm afraid that one day, I'll look out that window in room 303 and see someone standing in the middle of it, arms outstretched, and maybe then, I'll have to answer for not doing enough, for not finding her, for not finding him. The garden waits, and the earth still breathes. My shift always started at 11 p.m. on the dot. The psychiatric wing quieted in a strange way after 10, less like people were sleeping and more like they were hiding. I never said that aloud, of course. I was just the cleaner. No one wanted to hear the cleaner say the silence didn't feel safe. There's a hallway near the back of the east wing. The paint there is a bit yellower, chipped near the floorboards. It always smelled like lemon cleaner, and something beneath that, something sour. Room 9B sat at the end of that hallway. Patients weren't placed there anymore. Too close to the older section of the building, staff said. Poor ventilation. But the door was never locked, just shut, as if it was waiting. I'm Angelo, 42. I've been working night shifts at St. Alora's for 7 years. The job's not complicated. I clean. I listen to the sounds no one else hears. I try not to ask questions. Most nights, I hum softly to myself, just to hear something normal in that place. Last year, I started to feel something was wrong around 9B. Not loud, just wrong. I'd sweep past the hallway and hear a soft creak. The door handle would be slightly turned. One night, I swear the door was cracked open by half an inch. No wind in there, no air vent strong enough, but it moved. I mentioned it to Terry, the nurse on rotation with me. She laughed, said the old place was always doing weird things. Don't let it in your head, Ange, she said, but her laugh was hollow. One night, just after midnight, I was mopping near 9B. I had my headphones on, soft instrumental jazz like always, but through the music, I thought I heard something. Faint tapping. I paused, pulled the headphones down, tap, tap, then a pause, tap. It was coming from the inside of 9B. I stood still. I hadn't even touched that room in over a year. But that night, I stepped closer. My mop bucket creaked behind me. I reached out and placed my hand on the doorknob. Don't let him in, came a whisper behind me. I turned. The hallway was empty. No one else was on that side of the wing. Terry was at the front desk. I checked, but the whisper stayed with me. I went back, trying to ignore the door, yet the tapping came again. Every night after that, I started cleaning other areas first, saving the hallway for last, sometimes skipping it. But then, things got worse. I'd find wet footprints near the door, always child-sized, leading out into the hallway, always ending right behind me. Then nothing. Once, while cleaning the nurse's lounge, I dozed off in the recliner. I must have only closed my eyes for a minute, but when I woke up, my mop was standing upright in the middle of the room. The handle was wet, and there was a single line of muddy prints leading toward me. I asked the security guy, Marvin, to pull the hallway cam footage, but he told me that camera hadn't worked in weeks. That whole wing's dead tech-wise, he said. Admin's supposed to fix it. 2 weeks later, I cracked. I told Terry everything. The tapping, the whispers, the prints. She looked pale, said she'd heard the whisper once, years ago. Different wing, same voice. Then she told me the story. A boy had been kept in 9B when it was still in use. 8 years old, non-verbal, came in after a traumatic event. They never said what exactly, but he had a fixation with doors, always trying to close them, over and over. They thought it was a compulsion, but one night, a nurse found him in the hallway, holding a door shut with his entire body pressed against it, screaming without sound. No one on the other side. They moved him soon after. He died weeks later. Some say it was natural, others say he opened something he shouldn't have. Don't let him in, he'd whispered to the nurse that night. First and only words he ever said. After Terry told me that, I stopped going near the East Wing. But a week ago, I got called in to fill a short-staffed shift. Had to clean the whole building. I put it off, but eventually, I found myself near the hallway again, and the door to 9B was wide open. Inside was dark, colder than the rest of the floor. My flashlight flickered the moment I stepped closer. I didn't go in, but I heard it. A child's voice. Please close the door. Please close the door. Please close the door. Please, over and over. Soft, rhythmic, like a chant. I closed it. I pressed my palm against the wood. Don't let him in, I whispered. The handle twisted beneath my hand. Now I don't clean that wing. I've asked for a reassignment, but the hospital's slow with paperwork. Some nights, I still hear it, though I'm 2 floors away. The tap-tap of bare feet, the creak of a door, the whisper. I'm starting to believe it was never about locking something in. Maybe it was always about keeping something out. I haven't slept in 3 nights. My dreams are all doors, opening, closing, always a child's voice asking for help, always ending with that same phrase, don't let him in. I don't know who he is, but I think he's already here, and every door in that place is just another invitation. I've started locking my apartment door 3 times, then I sit in a chair and watch it for hours. The last time I blinked, I thought I saw a shadow under the crack. I think he followed me, and I'm not sure I shut the door in time. The elevator to the subward moves slower than the rest. It groans softly at each floor, like it's tired of carrying the weight of everything above it. Most staff avoid it when they can, preferring the stairs despite the extra effort. But when you're transporting linens to the memory care unit in the early morning hours, you don't have much choice. I'm Clarice. I'm 38, and I work as a night orderly at Briar Hill Long-Term Care. I've been here for nearly a decade. Most of my nights are spent rolling carts, cleaning up messes, and walking residents back to their rooms when they forget where they are. It's quiet work, steady. You learn to listen more than you talk, but something started changing a few months ago. Subtle at first, residents mumbling things that didn't make sense, whispering to empty corners, calling for people who weren't on their visitor list. That's not unusual in memory care. But this was different. It wasn't who they were calling for that bothered me. It was how certain they were she was already there. Her. Always a she. She's already here, Mrs. Lantry told me once, clutching my wrist with such strength. I gasped. Her eyes were clear that night, unclouded. Don't bring the lift down again. She doesn't like the noise. I laughed it off, said I'd keep it quiet, but her hand stayed tight around mine. She watches from under the wheels, she whispered. That night, I took the stairs, but over time, it became impossible to avoid. The deliveries had to go through. I tried not to think about it, tried to hum to myself. As the elevator hummed worse, I kept my eyes forward. I never looked down. Still, I began to notice small things. Scratches near the baseboards, rust-colored stains by the doorframe of the storage room on level -1, always faint, always smeared, as if someone tried to wipe them away in a hurry. One night, I found a pair of child's shoes just outside the elevator. They were small, pink with faded bunny ears on the toes. I brought them to the lost and found. The next night, they were back, same place. I asked around. No one knew of a child in that wing. No one claimed them. Eventually, I threw them out, but I still think I hear them sometimes. Tiny footsteps in the hallway, always just behind me, never quite catching up. Then there was Elva. She was a quiet woman, mid-80s, didn't speak much, but she began drawing pictures, circles within circles, a girl with a black mouth and no hands. She would press the pictures against the window of her room, always facing outward. I asked her once, gently, what the pictures meant. She's already here, Elva said, her eyes flat, voice distant. She came up through the grate. She watched me sleep. That night, I found the grate in question, a vent cover in the hallway, near the unused staff locker room. It rattled softly when I walked past, though the air system wasn't on. I bent down to check it, and I swear, in the dust-covered metal, I saw a fingerprint, a child's, small, perfectly pressed. I cleaned it, locked the locker room, told myself it was nothing. Then 2 nights later, the elevator came down by itself. I wasn't inside it. No one was. I was at the desk, watching the indicator light. It pinged at 3:11 a.m. The doors opened on their own, empty, but as they slid shut, I saw something on the floor. The pink shoes. I didn't sleep that day. I sat in my apartment, lights on, thinking, trying to piece together what I'd seen and heard. I went back through the reports, cross-checked supply deliveries. Everything pointed to normalcy, yet I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The next shift, I brought a small disposable camera with me. I know how it sounds, but I needed proof, or at least something to look at later, to prove to myself I wasn't unraveling. At around 2:45 a.m., I descended to level -1. The elevator was sluggish, the light inside flickering like a heartbeat. I held the camera close. As the doors opened, I immediately smelled something sweet and metallic, like rotting fruit, left in the sun. I walked into the corridor. The overhead lights buzzed, and she was standing there, at the end of the hallway, by the vent. She was small, 8, maybe 9, wearing a faded dress. No hands, just empty cuffs. Her mouth was wide open, a perfect black oval. No teeth, no tongue, just darkness. She didn't move. I raised the camera with shaking hands, and clicked. The flash went off. For a split second, the hallway lit up, and she was gone. I turned and ran. When I got back to the main floor, I found Elva waiting in the hallway, barefoot, eyes glassy. She reached out and touched my shoulder. "She doesn't like pictures," she said. Then she walked back to her room. I developed the photo the next day. It showed an empty hallway, but on the far left corner, almost cropped out, was a sliver of a shadow. It didn't match the wall. It looked like the edge of a face, too small to be mine. I tried to report it.
But how do you explain any of this?
"They moved Elva last week," said she was getting worse, but her room's window still has those drawings taped to it. Someone keeps replacing them, and the shoes appeared again yesterday. I think she's already here, not just on level -1, but in the building, in the walls, in the vents, in the rooms where people forget who they are. She waits for the weak, the quiet, the fading. I'm not sleeping much anymore. When I close my eyes, I see the hallway. I hear the elevators groan. I hear her soft dragging steps. I keep the photo taped above my bed. Now, just a hallway, just a shadow, but some nights, it looks like she's closer. They kept her room dark most of the time, said it helped calm her, reduce stimulation, but I always thought it felt like punishment. The curtains were drawn tight, even during the day, and the bulb overhead flickered like it was afraid of being looked at. "My name is Dominic. I'm 51. I'm a nurse's aide here, at Westfield Geriatric. I do the nights, mostly, sponge baths, meds, late-night check-ins. It's quieter at night. You hear things more clearly, feel them." She came in mid-autumn, burn victim, partial memory loss, no name, just a tag that read Jane D. They said she was found wandering a highway shoulder at dawn, skin blackened in patches, barefoot, mumbling the same sentence over and over. She kept asking for fire. At first she didn't speak to us at all, just stared. Her face was mostly untouched, but something about her eyes was wrong. They're not hollow. Exactly. Too much was behind them. Not too little, like she was looking through us, past us, towards something coming. The first night I was assigned to a room. I brought her a blanket. She sat upright, didn't blink. As I approached, I set it on her legs, about to turn away, when she grabbed my wrist, fast, with surprising strength. She kept asking for fire, she whispered. Her breath smelled like ash. I didn't sleep well that day. Her words wouldn't leave my ears. I told myself it was trauma, a fractured memory, something half remembered, from a house fire, or an accident. But then the smell started. At night, just past 3, a sharp whiff of smoke would pass through the corridor outside her room. We checked everything, wiring, outlets, heaters, nothing. It was always strongest outside her door. One night, I walked past her room and heard her humming, a slow, tuneless sound that rose and fell like wind through dead trees. I stopped, listened, then I heard another voice, softer, younger. "Please, just a little fire." I opened the door. She was alone, sitting up, staring at the far wall, her lips closed. We began noticing scorch marks, faint ones, along the baseboards, beneath her bed, under her fingernails. I filed a report. Maintenance repainted the wall. The marks came back the next night. She didn't eat much, just sat with her tray untouched, mumbling. When we tried to clean her, or change her dressings, she'd flinch away and whisper, "It's not me, it's her. She's cold all the time." Cold, but asking for fire. I started reading through old case notes during breaks, tried to find something, anything, that might explain her condition. Found mention of a girl, 10 years ago, brought in after a house fire. no known family. Severe burns, discharged into care, same wing, same room. She died 3 nights later. Her last words, "It wasn't me." She asked for fire. I kept digging, found other mentions, brief ones. Patients in that room, reporting strange smells, nightmares, speaking in voices that didn't belong to them. One orderly reported seeing a girl standing in the hallway, holding a burned doll. That was 6 years ago. He quit the next day. I didn't know what to believe anymore until the night I saw her. It was just past 4. I was doing rounds. Her door creaked open on its own. As I passed, I stepped inside. She was asleep, or pretending to be, curled on her side, face turned to the wall. I heard it again, the child's voice, "Please, just a spark." And then I saw the shape, near the foot of the bed, small, blackened, smoke curling from her hair. She turned her head, and for a moment, her eyes caught the moonlight, glowing, hollow. She didn't speak, she only stared. The room felt so hot, I thought my skin would blister. I backed away, stumbled out the door, and ran. I didn't tell anyone. What could I say? That a ghost child made me sweat through my scrubs. But the smell got worse, like a campfire, soaked in plastic. The patients began complaining, said it hurt their throats. We installed more fans. Nothing helped. Then Jane D began screaming at night. Screams so sharp and sudden, they cut through the silence like a blade. We found her curled on the floor, crying, whispering, "She's inside." She burned a hole in me. The doctors tried meds, sedatives. Nothing worked. Her eyes just grew darker, like something inside her was burning slower than the rest. One night, I asked her who she was. She looked at me, for the first time, really looked. Her lips trembled. She was a girl, cold all the time. She wanted warmth. She followed me out of the house, followed me into the skin. That night, the fire alarm went off, but there was no fire, no smoke, just heat, oppressive, pressing in from all sides. I went to her room. The bulb had blown. The air was shimmering. Then there she was, Jane on the bed, arms spread wide, eyes shut tight, and beside her, the girl, burned, melting, but solid, real. She turned to me, smiled with no lips. "I just wanted fire," she said. I don't remember running, but I did. By the time others arrived, the room was cool. Jane was unconscious. The girl was gone. They transferred her the next day to another facility, another town. I never found out where, but I still smell the smoke, in the linens, in the corners of empty rooms. When I close my eyes, I feel the heat under my skin. Sometimes I hear the voice again, soft, childlike, "Please, just a little fire." There's a long hallway in the old wing where the tiles echo differently. I've worked here for 19 years, and I still don't like walking down it when I'm alone, especially at night. The air feels too still, like the building's holding its breath. My name is Erica. I'm 42. Night nurse. I do the hospice, shifts most people avoid. It's quiet, yes, but it's not the peace that keeps me. It's something else. I've always had a strange sense that the people in their final moments know things the rest of us don't, that they're standing close to a line we can't see. 3 months ago, we admitted a man named Harold. He was in his late 70s, stage 4 lung cancer, no known family. Came in with a soft-spoken social worker and a single suitcase. He walked with a cane and wore a faded corduroy blazer, like he was dressed for something important. He was placed in room 309, end of that hallway, the one with the strange echo. From the first night, he seemed prepared, like he wasn't afraid. He'd sit up in bed when I came in and smile like he'd been expecting me. We'd talk. Not much, just little things. The weather, his favorite records. He mentioned his wife once, in passing, but not her name. He slept with the blinds closed, said the moon gave him dreams. A week in, he began asking odd questions, quietly, like they were for himself more than for me. "Do you believe people wait for us?" he asked one night. I said. He didn't answer, just looked out at nothing. Another night, he said, "There were 6 of us, but I think I'm the last one now." I asked who he meant. He smiled, shook his head. "You'll see," he whispered. "They always come before the end." I chalked it up to medication or fatigue. The mind plays tricks when the body starts letting go. But then things started happening. Voices in the hallway, soft ones, always just around the corner. At first I thought it was the television from another room, or maybe the new orderly talking on his rounds. But when I checked, the hallway was always empty. One night, I heard laughter, children's laughter, high and quick. I stood frozen outside Harold's door, listening. It faded like smoke. Harold started talking to people who weren't there, turned his head slightly, as if someone were standing at his side. He'd nod, murmur replies. When I asked him who he was speaking to, he looked at me like I should know. "Old friends," he said. "They're gathering." Then he paused. "You'll be the one, won't you?" I didn't ask what he meant. A few nights later, I found him sitting up, wide awake, eyes red from crying. The TV was off, the blinds drawn. The room was colder than the rest of the ward. "I heard her," he said. "Agnes. She was singing our wedding song." There was no music, just the faint hum of the fluorescent lights. After that night, he barely spoke, just stared, watching something I couldn't see. The hallway grew worse. Lights flickered. One night, the fire alarm stuttered for 3 seconds, then stopped. Maintenance found nothing wrong. No one else seemed bothered, but I started dreading my rounds, especially to room 309. One night, just before shift change, Harold called for me. His voice sounded strained, like he was pulling it up from somewhere deep. "I need to tell you something," he said, "because when it comes, I don't want to be alone." I sat beside him. He looked more fragile than ever, bones pressing against skin, eyes watery and lost. "We made a promise," he said, "back in 1963. 6 of us. We saw something we shouldn't have. A seance. We were kids, drunk on fear and fun. Thought it was a game." He reached for my hand. His was ice cold. "We invited something. I don't know if it came then, or years later, but it never left us. One by one they all started hearing it, seeing it, and before the end, every one of them said the same thing." He said I was the last one. He looked me dead in the eyes. "He'll say it to me tonight." I tried to reassure him, but his grip tightened. "You'll hear it too. You'll know." That was the last full sentence he ever spoke. An hour later, he began to convulse. We called the attending, administered meds, stabilized him. He fell unconscious. Around 3:30 a.m., I returned to his room alone. The air felt different, thicker, and there at the foot of the bed was a shape, not shadow, not smoke, a presence, tall, watching him. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, and then it turned to me. I didn't see a face, just a void, and in the silence, I heard the words. He said I was the last one. The voice wasn't Harold's, it wasn't mine. It echoed from somewhere beneath the floor, or inside my own ribs. A voice without a mouth, and then the lights blew out. When they came back, the shape was gone, and Harold was dead. The report said heart failure, peaceful, but I know better. Since that night, the hallway feels longer, like it stretches just a little more with each passing week. I hear footsteps now, behind me when no one else is on shift. Doors creak open, only to be empty inside. And sometimes when I'm trying to sleep, I hear the voice again, just once, always the same line. He said I was the last one. I don't know what it means anymore. I don't know if it's a warning or a countdown, but I do know this. Something came for Harold, and now it knows my name.